guys, it's Rose. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a complete fall TBR. Complete, which includes physical copies and on my Kindle. I'm going to be honest, I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to finish these. I have already gotten started. I started this TBR in the month of August, and I'm still not feeling confident about my ability to accomplish it all. That's okay though, because fall is my Super Bowl. And this gothic, spooky, dark romance, romantasy TBR, I feel like I'm pretty proud of it. And even if I don't finish every single book, at least maybe I can share some of these recommendations with you and we can all complete them together as a collective. Let's start off with physical books, shall we? So I'm going to start with a book called The Deer and the Dragon by Piper CJ. So I actually already read this. I read this last month, towards the end of last month, and I fell in love with this book. As you can see, I annotated it properly. That's a perk of physical copies, you know what I mean? So essentially this book, it's going to follow this girl who thinks that she's, for lack of better words, crazy. The therapist in me is cringing. She believes that she is experiencing delusions and hallucinations and that she's been experiencing them her whole life. It kind of runs in her family. So she's been seeing this male figure since she was a young girl. Well, she ends up developing a romantic relationship eventually with this male figure. It's not weird, I promise. And she ends up finding out later in adulthood, after she's become a very successful author, that man that she's had this romantic relationship with is the Prince of Hell, and he is a real being. And she finds that out through interacting with this other mythical creature. And the interesting thing about this book is the author has a master's in folklore. I talked about this in my other video, but I thought I'd do a re-wrap up. The author has a master's in folklore, and she does a really good job of like portraying every single religious pantheon. So in this world, all of them exist. I loved it. I can't wait for the second one to come out. I think it comes out in February. Next on the list is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is a thriller, and I don't know much about it besides the fact that it is a gothic House of Horrors tale. And it looks like it might be about a nurse who is going to take over the care of an elder, and there are some accusations against that elder for unaliving someone. I'm new to YouTube, and am I allowed to say the M word? See, I'm so conditioned to TikTok that I don't actually know. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, she murdered someone. I'm excited about this one. I don't have many thrillers on my list, and I really needed at least one, so I'm glad I picked this one. I've heard good things. Now I'm gonna talk about the All Souls trilogy, or it's just called the Souls trilogy. This is Her Soul for Revenge and Soul of a Witch. This one just came out recently. I have read Her Soul to Take. I read it last year. It's a perfect spooky season read. It's a demon romance, and it's extremely dark romance. I read this shit year round, but really screams fall to me. So I'm excited to reread these. I actually think I'm going to be reading these in October. Next on the list is Immortal Dark. I already did a review of this on my TikTok account. Look at these frayed edges. You see it says, "No soul could enter without an invitation." This is a dark academia romantasy with an all-black set of characters, which I was really happy about because dark academia, as you probably know, is notoriously Eurocentric, and I was really excited to see some diverse representation in the dark academia genre. We're gonna follow a girl who lives in this world where there's a very interesting dynamic between humans and vampires. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, there's vampires in this. Obviously screams fall. And she ends up having to live in her family estate with this vampire that's connected and tied to her family. She is convinced that this vampire that she's living with has unalived her sister and her entire family. I'm not gonna go more into it than that, but this is technically YA. There's no actual spice, but there's a lot of tension, you know? And that can be really good. Sometimes you don't need the spice. I would highly recommend this for any fans of DA that are looking for something that's a little less spicy than other dark academia romances. Next on the list is The Games That Gods Play by Abigail Owen. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this. One of my mutuals on TikTok, Alistair Marie, I think is her name if I'm remembering it correctly. She knows the author, and I've seen her recommend this, and I trust her reviews with my life. So I'm really, really excited to read this. This is gonna follow the Greek gods. And in this world, every 100 years, I think, they pick a human to compete in this competition to determine who's going to be king of the gods. And I think that there's going to be a romance between Hades, the king of the underworld, the ruler of the dead, and a human that he's picking to compete for him. We love it. Trainer-trainee tropes, power dynamics, gods, gods of death, okay? This screams Halloween to me. I don't know if that's what it was like designed to be, but it feels very fall-coded. Then I'm going to be rereading Belladonna. I read this last year, and if you followed me back then, you know that I didn't give this an outstanding review. I personally believe that that is because I was deep in my Hermione phase at the time, and I'm still in the Hermione phase. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on Hermione recommendations. If you're not familiar, Hermione is Hermione fanfiction from Harry Potter. Yes, I know you may think it's cringe, but it's not. I thought the same thing. Okay? It changed my life. Anyways, back to the actual topic at hand. Belladonna is a dark romance that follows a girl who I can't remember if everybody she touches dies, or if it's like she can't die. I think it's the second one, the latter. She falls in love with death, basically. And it's very atmospheric. It's very great. I'm going to be rereading it because I want to read Foxglove, which is the sequel, and then Wisteria, which is the third book in the trilogy, so I'm really excited. I do think this is perfect for spooky season. If any of you guys have read the full trilogy, please let me know what you think, because I really feel like this one's hit or miss. Then I'm going to be reading A Far Wilder Magic. I'm going to read a little bit of the synopsis for you guys, but as you can tell, it just looks very witchy and fall. When Margaret Welty spots the legendary Hala, the last living mythical creature, she knows the half-moon hunt will soon follow. Oh. Whoever is able to kill the Hala will earn fame and riches and unlock an ancient magical secret. While Margaret is the best sharpshooter in town, only teams of 2 can register and she needs an alchemist. Sounds like she's going to develop a romance with the alchemist. I don't know, it just seems very fall, seems very cute. I've seen amazing reviews. It's kind of like got those like dark forest vibes. I go for a vibe, you know? That's what we do here. Then Your Blood, My Bones. This is supposed to be a YA, dark, foresty kind of romantasy. I do think that this is enemies to lovers. There's some spooky elements, themes of ritualistic deaths on this person's property, a semi-immortal love interest. I mean, the cover says it all. Also, let me know if you've read this. This is also on Everand, and I recently found out about Everand for audiobooks. How did nobody tell me about this before? It's like an all-inclusive audiobook app, and you pay like, I think $11.99 a month, and you can listen to so many audiobooks. You don't have credits or anything. Next on the list is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I have already read this. This is going to be a reread for me. This is one of my favorite dark academia books of all time. It's extremely dark, so please check your trigger warnings if you're going to dive into this. There's like cultic worship and secret societies, ritualistic sacrifice, very dark themes. It's actually quite gory right from the opening. But I do like the darker side of DA, so if you're like me, you probably will love this. It's perfect for spooky season. You'll follow a girl who gets a sudden and kind of unexpected offer to attend Yale University. She gets intertwined in the secret societies there. Not going to say more than that. I am excited to read the sequel, which is why I'm rereading this. Now on to The Coven. This is a cute, cozy, whimsical romance, and I don't know much more than that. So I'm excited about this. This is a library, spell books, handsome neighbor, bakery. Obviously gonna read it. One of my favorite things to read during fall is like a cozy bakery romance. It's pretty much the only time of year that I'll actually read rom-com. My preference is for like dark gothic romance or dark gothic fiction or speculative fiction. Those are my preferred genres. Next up is Lady Macbeth. This is a retelling of Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth. It's gothic. It's got really mixed reviews. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that I'll like it. It is a short read, so I'll probably read this soon actually, after I'm finished with what I'm currently reading, which we'll go over. I did do a review of Bewitched and Bespelled, which I feel like has taken TikTok by storm, BookTok and BookTube by storm as well. This is a witchy, darker, following a girl who is a witch trying to get accepted into a coven. She ends up going on this trip and hearing the voice of a man calling to her. She ends up freeing this creature from his tomb because she's compelled to. You find out more about that, and he will not leave her alone, and he's convinced that she's his ex-lover. Very interesting. I read the first book. I had a hard time getting all the way through it because it did slow down at parts. And I have not read the sequel, but I have heard that the sequel's better. This is a really good spooky season read. And the last physical copies on my TBR are The Ashes and The Star-Cursed King and The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is a duology. I have read the first one. It was pretty good, but I'm going to do a reread so that I can go straight into this. I'm not one of those people that can take large breaks in between books. I'll lose the details. I read so many books that I actually will start to mix up plots. It's a problem. So this is a very interesting take on vampires and humans. And it kind of reminded me of The Hunger Games combined with Divergent, combined with Underworld. It was really good. And this girl, she is a human, but she's like adopted by this vampire king, and she enters this competition and she ends up falling in love with this vampire that's in the competition. Very interesting. I'm excited for the sequel. I've also heard the sequel is better. So now that we've finished up with all of the physical TBR, Rose is going to take a drink because that was a mouthful, and we're going to move on to Kindle. We'll start with what I'm currently reading when I'm filming this. I'm about to finish it actually. Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This is so good. If you are trying to get into the whole dark romance stalker thing, but you just feel like you can't do it, this is a great bridge. The author actually commented on one of my posts and said that she did design it as an intro to dark romance. So if you're somebody that's like, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know how I feel about the stalker tropes, you're uncomfortable, test the waters with this. The male main character is a stalker of our female main character, but he somehow is a golden retriever, and then our female main character is a badass nurse, and she has the black cat energy, and the banter's hilarious. It's very rom-com-y somehow. Kind of reminded me of Butcher and Blackbird, like with the banter, not the plot at all, but the banter. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Lights Out. So a few that I have finished: Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This was incredible. This is a dark, spicy romance where the female main character is a human, and she's a witch, a human witch, and she falls in love with a phantom. So kind of like a ghost, but there's different tiers of ghosts in this world. She enters a competition to try to find her sister who's gone missing, and this ghost, this phantom, ends up offering to help her. This phantom also looks exactly like Draco Malfoy. So if that's your type, I would recommend this. This was really, really good and came out recently, and it's the perfect spooky season read. I tell people that this is a combination of Caraval and The Poisoner, if you've read The Poisoner. Has very whimsical vibes. Actual rom-com on the list is just pure rom-com contemporary. It's a cozy pumpkin spice fall themed romance that occurs in a cafe. And then I'm going to be reading the sequel, Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I think that's the name of it. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. And it's the sequel, but I think it's also a standalone with the same vibes. Then I'm going to be reading By Any Other Name. I saw this author pop up on my TikTok, and I knew I had to add this to my TBR. Sounds like it's going to be a dark academia romance. Okay, it's supposed to be spicy. I'm excited for it. I'm currently listening to An Academy for Liars. This is a dark academia romance with an academic advisor and student trope, as well as a Southern Gothic and magical school setting. I love this. You guys have to read this. This might be one of my favorite reads of the year, if I'm going to be honest. Next, I also finished Thrum. This is a sci-fi romantic horror. The emphasis is on the horror, okay? And it's short and it's very unsettling. I'm not typically a fan of sci-fi, but I loved this. You're gonna follow this woman who's on this space mission trip, and she's been put into stasis because the trip is several years long. She wakes up out of stasis and all of her crewmates are dead. So she ends up using the AI on the spaceship to repair the ship because there's damage to it. And it sends out this distress signal, and an alien answers, and the alien can shapeshift into whatever he wants to communicate with her. She ends up developing feelings for this creature. There's a huge plot twist at the end. I was not expecting it. It was so good. Okay, you have to read this for spooky season. I absolutely loved it. And I think this is by Meg Smitherman. I hope I pronounced that right. Anathema by Carrie Lake. This is her debut Gothic fantasy. She typically writes dark Gothic romance, but she really went all out with this. I actually had to purchase the physical copy. I can't believe I forgot. Let me pull it out of my drawer right here. Look at that thick bad boy. The glossary is like several pages long. And I started reading it on Kindle and I literally couldn't do it because I kept trying to refer back to the glossary. So I bought a physical copy so that I can annotate this and keep track of like all of the maps. Carrie Lake is one of my favorite authors of all time. She can write Gothic. If you are interested in getting into Gothic dark romance or Gothic romance, please check out Carrie Lake. She's my go-to recommended author for anything Gothic dark. Gothic and dark. So I think that's gonna be it realistically for what I'm gonna get through this fall. I'm so glad that you guys are here. If you have a chance, I'm gonna be posting a lot of spooky, cozy vlogs. I have a couple of ideas to share with you guys in this upcoming month and spooky season months. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll see you guys next time.